Hi, everybody. How's it going? I'm Walter. Joining us today is the wonderful friend of mine who I'm very, very happy to join us in this chat. It is Quinn McKay. Hi,
Oh my
Quinn.
God.
What?
Hang
Quinn's got the double sound going.
Do you, do you have the
I didn't
the
notice.
audio source? Yeah.
I want to be able to see the chat.
Oh
Just
yeah. So
mute
you
it.
turned it on, and so you got yep. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
mute the Twitch window. I don't need to tell you that. She doesn't need our tech support. And joining us is Matt, who actually joins us every week, and he actually moderates when we're doing Match Made in Hell. And I figured it was time that he got his lovely face on camera with us.
I appreciate that.
Join us.
You're pulling me out of the gorilla position.
Yeah, out into the past the curtain.
There you go.
It's time. Yeah, he's been there. He's joined us before and after shows, and we're happy to have Matt here. We decided, let's just have a chat, and I'm always happy to see my friends and just kind of BS. I've changed my background picture to this blue-haired person.
I don't know her.
So this actually was from the very first Journey Pro show, which was December 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So about a year and a half ago. Doesn't that feel like 30 years ago at this point?
It really does. It really does. I barely remember the night at all.
Were you in Baltimore at that point? I think you were still living like down here, right?
Yeah, this was literally, I think I had this show and then I hit AAW on the way out in like the same weekend. And that was my last Midwest weekend I was home. And then I moved out I hit you guys and I hit AAW and then I just drove straight to the coast.
Right, because you were doing you were with Kurt and Jake at AAW there for a while, right?
Yeah, love those dudes. They're fantastic.
Yeah, and they weren't actually, Jake was supposed to be on this show, so you would have seen him there. But he didn't make it. And I give Jake a lot of trouble because he didn't realize how far of a drive it was from where he lives in Michigan.
Yeah, I remember that.
Jake something under the bus. Yeah, because he realized later is wow, this is a really, really long way.
Yeah, I was really disappointed. I was really looking forward to seeing him.
Yep.
He and Kurt really are just so great, and they're so hilarious.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yep.
But then the next time we were supposed to come out, we had just this really freak accident, and I'm the one that didn't get to show up. So I mean, you can't give him too much crap for that.
Tell me, so to bring everybody up to speed, the next show after that was going to be Quinn's wrestling debut, and it was going to be a triple threat match between you and Marty Bell and Shotzi Blackheart, I believe.
Yes, and it was going to be the best ever. It was definitely the coolest match I had been booked in to. Well, no, still the coolest match that I would have been able to have been in, because I have not had many since, but I would have been able.
Well, it was shortly thereafter that you ended up you were exclusive, obviously, so you weren't taking indie dates anymore. And then you opened up for indie dates as of February of this year.
And in March, and then the pandemic happened.
Yep. So
it was hey, I finally got word from the office that I could take indie dates again. And then there's a global pandemic, and all travel gets shut down, and there's no wrestling for forever. And now I don't even know what I'm doing anymore.
Yeah, because that was definitely something we had wanted to make right, because you never did actually get to make your debut, and I am disabling that background because it is driving me nuts because I'm clipping into it. So yeah, you never did get to make that debut. It was funny because it's not super funny. I think you guys made the right decision. Who was it that was in your car with you and Dak? There was somebody else who was coming.
I don't even remember at this point. I think Brian Johnson was going to be with us.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Who is an awful, awful, terrible person, and I am clearly not friends with, and I will never speak to him ever again, Brian Johnson. I'm required to say that by work.
All right, I don't. Yes, that
I think that's it.
Totally understood. You could have made it somebody else. So Matt, they were made it somebody else. So Matt, they were up there at the if you're familiar with the Ring of Honor's training dojo up there in Baltimore, that's where they were. And they were going to make a drive from Baltimore to Kansas City, which is
It's 15 hours.
I was going to say 14, 15 hours.
Yeah. And then we had like this blizzard hit, and I think that Dak and I had just come back from a show in Pennsylvania when the first wave hit. And so we were going down through the Appalachian Mountains coming out of Pennsylvania. And in my car, which is a very, very small, light car that does not do well in weather, just kind of like fishtailing across these like mountain roads. And it was horrifying. And a drive that would have taken us like 4 hours took us 7, I think. And then we were supposed to leave for Journey the next weekend, and we got a second wave of the snowstorm, which didn't end up being as bad. But at the time that we were supposed to leave, it was really bad. And then by the time it had blown over, there's like no possible way that we could have made it because, again, mountains.
Yes. So that was, first of all, I want to say before we even begin that story that, and I told you this at the time, and I was told Dak this at the time, Dak Draper, I'll tell you again, you absolutely made the 100% the right call. It would have been a terrible idea to make that, and your safety is the most important thing by far. That's what we told all our fans. That's what we told everybody. Okay, first of all, that's bad on us because, you know, it's tough to fly like a bunch of people, obviously, especially we're a brand new company. And let's be honest, our draw at the first show that we did was pretty meh.
I remember it being a pretty full house.
It was okay. It's still the lowest house we've ever had, but you know, it was our first show. And also it turned out that we went up against we booked that like early on. And then like, because we thought the Chiefs ended up getting a Thursday night game that same night, the Kansas City Chiefs. And we thought, okay, it's no big deal. They're going to have a first-year starting quarterback. They're not going to be very good, probably. The season's going to be over by that time. That was Patrick Mahomes in his first year. And they were, like, playing for the division that night. So we were head-to-head with, like, a really important game on our first night. So that was entirely, like, dumb on our part. And then we booked like insane travel in February across the Appalachian Mountains because we're just super duper smart. That's what it comes down to. But so we were talking about this on text earlier. So I wanted to let her know that she hasn't heard the story. We have a really hardcore Strange fan who had been around, and Quinn knew from her time with NWL.
Yeah.
I'm sure you remember the guy who, I won't say his name because I'm not going to be mean.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about.
So, and he accused us of doing like a full like bait and switch that we would never like, that this was like this like elaborate thing because he has a really weird obsession with your boyfriend. I'm just going to tell you, if you didn't know, he's really, really obsessed with him.
Yeah.
And
guy.
And so he was like, you guys like intentionally like tricked me out of ticket money by saying that these people were they were going to be there, and you lied and you intentionally knew that
because we were totally a big enough draw at the time to just like really sell it out intentionally to steal people's money.
He even posted a photo of Baltimore weather that day to show that Baltimore weather was fine. And I had to explain to him that there were different places with different weather and different accumulations between Baltimore and Kansas City. I don't know that it stuck, but
it's the ultimate heel move you did there, though.
That's dedication. I wonder what time of day he showed that to be like, see, look, the weather's totally fine. This has nothing to do with the snowstorm that blew in at 5 this morning.
Yeah.
It was at the time that he decided he was mad about it, which whatever time that was. I don't know that it was the day of the show.
Because the time that we would have had to have left was at like 3:30 in the morning, which is traditionally what people would consider the middle of the night.
Yes, that's a very wrestling time to leave your house too.
Yeah.
Having been on a couple of those road trips myself. But yeah, it was I don't remember if it had been the day of the show. The truth is, and you know this from working around productions a lot, I never would have seen it. because day of show, I'm doing other things besides reading social media. So I think it was like the day after. It probably was that day because that was a learning experience on Journey's part. Honestly, that was our bad. We should have never assumed that February travel through the mountains would ever be okay. But I want to say I appreciate you guys trying to do it, and I'm glad you didn't try to do it.
If it had been this February, it would have been absolutely fine because we didn't get. I don't think we got like an inch of snow, not anywhere in Maryland.
Dak was on, it was on one of our winter shows. He was on two of them. Because I think he was on November and December this year, right? That was before you were obviously taking dates, but you actually showed up at one too because you came to visit your family. Yeah. You were in the audience. I don't remember which show that was.
I don't either. I don't remember. People ask me all the time. They're like, well, what show is this? What show is this? Who was there? And I'm like, guys, I don't know. I got there. And I did the stuff I was supposed to do. And I tried not to mess it up too bad. And then I went home and then I erased it from my mind. Otherwise, I would not have the brain power to just function all the time as a human. Not the level of anxiety that I function at.
I have had people ask me like the day after a show to send the results because they want to like put them on like Cage Match or whatever, because they update like the weird like event databases, and the next day I'll have no idea. I'll remember like all the matches, but I won't even remember who won. In some cases, my brain is so fried that next day.
There are certain, like if I think long enough about it, I can give you an answer, but I can never answer anything on the spot. Like sometimes people like to ask me Ring of Honor trivia, and I don't know if it's because like I'm the host and they think that I'm supposed to know everything about the company from like the very beginning of time. But I'm just like, guys, I was just at Best in the World like last week and I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened.
Matt, do you have any Ring of Honor trivia questions to ask Quinn McKay?
I unfortunately don't. I'm sorry. But we do have a question in the chat that I would like to ask her. So other than Journey Pro, obviously, where would you like to wrestle first once this whole COVID thing has gone over? And we'll put Ring of Honor aside as well.
Right.
Dream company you'd like to go wrestle for?
I don't know. There are a lot of companies I really like to wrestle for. I would like to wrestle in the UK, like literally anywhere in the UK. Please book me. I'd also really like to wrestle in Australia because I have a lot of really fun friends from Australia now, and I'd really like to wrestle anywhere in Australia. But I don't know. I would really like to work with. This is a hard question because I feel like people are going to put more weight in it than they should, and I get anxious about things.
People watching, don't put any weight into this.
I want to work for Beyond because I think the stuff that they put out is super cool.
Nice.
Like no reaction at all.
And a really easy travel too.
Yeah.
That helps.
I don't know, guys. I will wrestle anywhere that you want me to wrestle because I like to see new places and things and nouns and whole nine. Where would people like to see me wrestle?
There you go. Yeah. Where would you like to see Quinn? That is a better question, yeah.
I really want to wrestle in California also.
Why don't you come up to Canada? Do some matches up here too.
Where?
Anywhere. Anywhere.
There's this tour that a lot of Ring of Honor people do.
Yeah.
Up north. That's like a month and a half long tour that I'm pretty sure, to my understanding, and you have to realize I have not even the slightest grasp on geography whatsoever.
It's all right.
But to my understanding, it starts like from one end of Canada that's closest to us on the East Coast.
Okay.
And then he like travels west.
Yeah.
And there's this one stretch where there's not a gas station for like, it's like driving through Texas basically, but cold. That's how I've envisioned it. There's not a gas station for like 300 or 400 miles. And if you miss gas, you're just like screwed. And there's all these horror stories about breaking down this stretch of the highway in general. And it's like, guys, you know it's coming. You do it every year. So it has been discussed that maybe I would do that. And I think that sounds like a good time.
Yes, that is a good time. You get to see this beautiful country of ours and break down on the side of the road here.
Yes, exactly. Which is exactly the kind of story that you want to have.
Right?
Yeah. As long as there are other people with me.
Yeah, and friendly people.
Yeah. In general, no, I don't advise like breaking down on the side of the road for fun.
No. There's a stretch in Wyoming. If you've ever been across I-80 through Wyoming, it's a lot like that. Like there's very, very little between like Cheyenne and like Provo, Utah. And that's why you have to stop at this place called Little America, which is like America's biggest truck stop, because it's the only gas between like for like at least like 150 miles on either side of it.
Excellent. Those places are great.
It's exactly what you think it is too. It is a amusement park of truck stop.
My favorite part of travel is like finding those weird personal landmarks that you make that you know, like, okay, I'm this far into the trip. I'm this far into the trip. When I was a kid, like my first landmark ever is whenever you cross the border from, I don't know, like Kansas into Oklahoma or something, there's that giant McDonald's that's a bridge across the highway. I was like, okay, we're approximately halfway to my uncle's house. Fantastic.
I still travel that way. It's all landmarks. Like, don't give me street names or anything. Tell me landmarks and I can find my way around.
I wouldn't be able to read a street sign anyway, so please just tell me what Hardee's you want me to turn at.
Right, yes.
No, exactly. I totally read that on Twitter. I think our friend Sarah actually made it. I don't know.
Yeah, around KC, as you know, and in Missouri in general, you give directions by Quick Trip. Like, it's Quick Trip directions. Like, you turn right at this Quick Trip and then left at the next one. And yeah.
Oh, Glory Pro would be, yeah, I'd like to work for Glory Pro.
I'm sure he would. It's funny you mentioned that, because somebody who is associated with Journey Pro or with Glory tried to take that Canada tour that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I remember like they had visa issues. And so they had planned their wrestling calendar for that like 6 weeks to be in Canada, and they weren't allowed to enter the country for some reason. There was something wrong. Imagine how horrible that would be. You lost like 6 weeks of your bookings because, of course, you'd planned on this big chunk of time.
Yeah.
That would suck really bad.
What sucks really bad is like announcing that you're finally going to come back to the Indies and then a pandemic hits. That's also really bad luck. Just saying.
You'll get so I think you remember it came up a couple weeks ago, but Sarah the Rebel, who of course plays with us, wants to wrestle you in Journey really badly. And she's already sent over a couple of ideas, honestly. Like, yeah, she was enthusiastic. I ain't gonna tell you what they are, obviously. But,
no, I demand that you tell me all of the ideas for creative right now. I refuse to move forward unless I am part of these creative meetings.
Yes.
Live on the internet.
Yeah, there you go.
Strong on my way into all of my jobs.
Yeah, we'll definitely make that happen as soon as we can do that. So we're still sort of dipping our toes into the water of figuring out how to run events like in this environment safely, and like how to work in, and frankly, if everybody's being honest with themselves, how not to just like completely lose our shirts while doing it, because it's going to be hard. It's just a whole different world, as I'm sure you know from discussions back home.
Yeah. People ask me like every day on Twitter, like when ROH is going to come back for shows. And it's just like, I don't know, guys. Like, I have more access to that information than you do, but the answer is the same. Like, we don't know when we'll come back for live shows.
There's no easy answer for that right now for anybody, for any business, really. Honestly, it doesn't matter what.
Agreed.
What business you're in or running, like nobody knows at this point.
Yeah. And we're taking it very, very seriously. And I honestly, I can't credit Ring of Honor enough for all of the precautions that they've taken and keeping everybody in the loop on everything and discussing ideas and plans. And we've all had like a really big voice in what the company should look like going forward after quarantine. And that's been like really nice as well. But taking into account the safety of crew and talent and everybody involved in crowd. It's too much to gamble. It really is.
You guys are really setting an amazing example, I would say, of the bigger companies. I personally think that Ring of Honor has behaved the most responsibly of the majors, and
yeah.
I know a lot of people have noticed. Like, ROH has had some speed bumps in the last couple of years, but this is a very incredible example to set for everyone else. And I'm proud that you guys are there, and I'm proud that you're a representative of that company.
I'm really proud too, and thank you. At least we're getting good reviews for something.
So on that note, how good is Journey Pro? Do you think Journey Pro?
Let's go to the real questions here.
Yeah. So how cool is Journey?
Speaking of questions, how is your scalp, Quinn? Are you by contract? Are you obligated to keep the brunette, or would you ever go back to the funky hair colors? I guess because in the picture Walter there, you had blue hair, and is you not? So I guess how's your scalp? Is the question. I guess it's related to dyeing the hair. I assume.
My braids are very tight, so I keep touching the back of my head. But my scalp is good. And about the funky hair, I do have to keep it brunette, for continuity's sake. However, I did text my producer today, and I was like, "Hey, could I put a pink streak in my hair? I don't know if you're really the person I'm supposed to ask, but you seem like the most logical place to start." And he was like, "Yeah, fine, do whatever you want." So I do have more freedom. I think that they're less concerned that people are going to find out that I'm not this meek girl behind the bow tie, and they're like, "Oh no, she's already out on Twitter and on the internet. We can't put that genie back in the bottle."
You have say they are Instagram followers of yours, for example.
Instagram's great. Twitter's great. Social media is great if that's your thing.
Well, Walter, there's a request here when Quinn comes back to Journey Pro to run a Buffy themed show.
That would be really cool.
Man, that could be a great there could be a great name. You could probably call the show Nerf Herder after the band that did the theme song.
Yes.
And also the Star Wars reference. So I don't know.
They liked one of my tweets once, and it was the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. I think that's the most on Twitter.
Yeah, there's got to be a really good Buffy reference that can be made in there.
There are so many.
What was the name of Oz's band? Help me out here.
Dingoes Ate My Baby.
Yeah, there you go. That was it. I think somebody's named the show that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I not only have been obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer my entire life and own all 7 seasons on DVD and own multiple t-shirts, but also I have starred as one Buffy Summers in class act staged parodies in Springfield, Missouri. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I tried to find the promo poster of that because I had seen it a long time ago during that.
I was in, I think 6 or 7 episodes.
I remember the promo, the promo poster, and I had one years ago, and I tried to dig it back up, and I couldn't find it anymore. I was very disappointed because I was going to put it in that thread where you were talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
It was my dream come true to just be up on stage because it was so loose and because we would meet and we would watch the episode and we'd get the scripts and then we'd read through and then we'd do blocking episodes and then we ever only had one actual run through because you're not supposed to, it's kind of like reader theater. So they have up on teleprompters, our actual lines for us to reference, but most of it's on the fly and improv and just kind of saying things and reacting a character and then trying to stick to the script, which was really fun. Man, I love it. I love it.
You do realize Buffy is actually the heel of the show, though, right? By the end, by those last 3 seasons, you realize Buffy is actually the villain of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right?
Uh-oh, where are we going here?
You've watched it enough that non-Marty Noxon episodes, you have to have considered this.
Buffy's not the villain. by the end of okay, if you want to get okay, no, she's not. No, she's not. Heavy is the crown, okay? I will fight you.
Well, if we do
I just want
it,
you to explain it to me. I just want you to explain it to me in a way that I could be unbiased and understand that Buffy becomes, because like again the whole thing with the parallels with like the first being her, like she's defeating her demons that season. Like that's all about overcoming like adulthood and responsibility and like defeating the worst parts of yourself. Like that's right. So no.
And adolescence has monsters basically, and like the struggles of like growing up is obviously like, you know, it's a show heavily based in metaphor.
Yes.
Well, if we do the show, I'm going to be Bad Faith. So that's how I'm going to dress up.
I want to be Clem.
Matt, have you even seen this show? Do you have any idea
I've watched some of it. I had an ex who really liked it, so I watched a whole bunch. I never really got into it.
You should put up a thumbnail of Clem over my face right now.
I'm a Firefly guy, if it has to be Joss Whedon. I loved that show. I fell in love with that when it first aired, but I haven't really gotten to anything else that he's done, to be perfectly honest. And I've tried. I watched a lot of Buffy.
But you didn't like it.
You didn't watch it.
I didn't get into it. No.
You didn't watch it right.
Watch it right. Then you didn't watch it right.
Yes.
It just didn't speak to
me. What about Angel?
I didn't watch any Angel at all whatsoever. No.
Angel is way better than people give it credit for, and I like it stands up today, but it's such a weird journey because like it took like 3 or 4 seasons, and it's only 5 seasons long for it to find out what it really was. Like I think it was the first show at the time that was really trying to like adapt to a lot of things as it was coming out. Sorry, I didn't mean to snap over and over again like in your ears.
ASMR.
Stereo.
So there's the first season is like wildly different than the second and third, and then the 4th and 5th it really takes off, and it's just talk about having to face up to becoming the monster. Like it's good. Also really good metaphor.
Really fun thing with that too, because you got to watch like David Boreanaz's journey when he first showed up on Buffy. I don't think he was like
filling out into a hot ass dude.
I mean, he was always hot. He started hot and ended hot, but he wasn't like you probably know this because you're obviously like a big Buffy fan, but he was not like an actor when that show started. When he got on in Buffy, he basically was a guy that Joss Whedon saw. It's like, wow, you look amazing. We can do amazing things with you. But if you watch
I'm into it.
But if you watch those first couple episodes of Buffy that he's in, he's so bad.
Yes.
And he got so good by the time he got, he was terrible.
This is just Boreanaz's face.
Dull surprise is how we describe that. But man, good. I mean, he made it work. He put in the work and got better and better, and he turned into a real thing. Yeah, that's man. So what you should have named the chat actually, Matt, was the Buffy the Vampire Slayer discussion.
Yes, the Buffy fan chat.
I've been trying to get people to let me come on their Buffy podcast for years now, and nobody wants to let me talk about it. So,
but we got that chance today. I will say I haven't watched it in a few years, so I'm spotty on a couple of like the core details. I still, I just know that the mayor is my favorite part. That's the.
My favorite villain ever was Glory. She was fabulous.
That was a fun season.
Yes, that was a very fun season, which led to, and like I love Buffy season 6. There's a lot of controversy about that. I think that
Buffy. It's a hot take, but yeah,
I think it's the best season. Like
is that the final season?
No, 7 is the final
okay.
season.
7 is just a lot of Buffy giving that same speech over and over again.
I have given many like it.
Guys, it's serious now.
Did you read the comic book series that came out afterwards that picked up the story after season 7?
Yeah, actually.
She has it.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's actually nearby. It's within reach of where she is sitting recording this, as it turns out.
Oh man, I can't get it out. So
I believe you.
Individual trays. And I have the giant library editions as well.
Oh, the collected. Yeah. Okay. That's legit.
I'm not messing around, guys.
Was it good? Let me ask.
It went off the rails a little bit. Don got really big and then started banging Xander, and that's when I stopped reading.
Huh.
That's just predatory. And
Michelle Trachtenberg and...
Did you know that Spike, James Marsters, has a band called Ghost of the Robot, and he wrote a song called Dangerous that was about her flirting with him as a teenager on set.
Definitely did not know that.
Yep. The things you learn.
She was part of like the Paris Hilton crew, so they were like kind of wild anyway, right? Or was that not true yet?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, she was part of that little like posse with Paris Hilton and company.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, I knew that Spike's accent was actually based on
Anthony Stewart Head's.
On Anthony Stewart's Head's real life like accent.
Mm-hmm.
So he was emulating Anthony Stewart Head while Anthony Stewart Head was emulating someone else. I'm
just really giving away how much I know about Buffy the Vampire Slayer lore right now. It's not cute.
You are. Hey, I'm hanging. I'm hanging in this conversation. I did not think that I would.
You need to start your own podcast.
We were just talking. Okay. Do you want to just talk about? Should we start our own Buffy podcast? Is that what's going to happen?
How do you want to do it? Do you want to do like a watch along? Whenever we get into the season 7 era, we can watch also I have discs of when I was Buffy, and we can also watch that.
You should definitely watch that.
No, I'll never let anybody see this ever.
Really?
I enjoy doing it. I've also never watched them back. I'm never gonna.
Is this a sort of Robin Sparkles thing? Is this the kind of thing that will stay like on disc forever?
Yeah, I've done a lot of interesting things, and that's certainly one of them.
Dude, yeah, we could. That's the thing is we could. Matt, what do you got for us?
I think you should do a watch along, and then you do a debrief episode afterwards, where you just kind of decompress everything. So you watch it, you talk about it as you're watching it, and then you come back a week later or whatever, and you do your next episode, and you decompress what you viewed. You take it away. You were at a different stage of your life when you watched it last time, a different age. You're watching it now. Take some time, think about it, and come back a week later, and then talk about what happened. And how you felt when you first watched it, and how you watched it recently, or how you last watched it, and things like that.
I'm just always kind of in the middle of a Buffy rewatch.
Just a constant, non-stop loop.
Yeah. I'm trying to get Dak to watch it, and he watched
He hasn't seen it
some
yet?
of the first season and some of the second season, and he keeps falling off. He also just doesn't really enjoy it, I think, which is really disappointing.
I don't know how you can get into that second season with Spike and Drusilla. Like, that stuff is really, really good.
I thought the introduction of Spike was going to kind of pull him in too, and it kind of did, because Spike is for sure his favorite character, I'd say. But not enough for him to be like, hey, let's watch another episode of Buffy.
That's hysterical. And we'll force... the first season is sort of... it's just sort of mystery of the week there for a while. You got that silly ass internet demon. That thing's lame.
Willow dates a robot demon.
That's
so
that episode's stupid. But
okay, so this is some niche stuff that we're getting into.
It is. We've gone way down the rabbit hole of this, but it doesn't matter. It's fun. Yeah. See, this is how the new economy works. We just like take something you love and then like just pursue it until you've literally crushed it into like fine powder. That
exploit it.
Yep. That is.
Recite all of the plot to you from memory because I snorted it right up into my brain.
My like rewatch shows I frequently watch like while I'm about to go to sleep. Like that's my thing is like I'll put on a show and then put on the TV timer.
Comforting. You're not worried you're going to miss something.
Exactly. And I've seen it. And that's how I'll always, when I'm about to go to sleep, I'll put on something comfortable. I can't do that with Buffy. And I have to tell you, because the Nerf Herder song is so fucking loud.
And
it wakes me up every time when it gets to the credits. And I hear that, and it's like, oh, fuck. It's jarring. Yeah.
Here's a question for the two of you. We can all three of us. Doesn't even matter. Okay, so what other obsessive fandom would surprise the uninitiated audience? The two of you have big obsessions.
I feel like that's also a really hard question to answer because on the surface, I'm like, nothing really just the one. But there are some things that I've gotten into pretty obsessively over my life. Like, I also really like Firefly, obviously. I got really into Supernatural for a while. The only other fandom that I would say that I'm really as obsessed with, that I know everything about and have my own theories about and ideas and could probably write some papers, is this book series. It's a new adult high fantasy series called A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And it is incredible. It is so good. I tell people, like, Session Moth Martina is reading it right now. Sarah the Rebel said that she was going to read it next. Like, I get people on this book. It's so good. So good. Not for the menfolk, probably. You probably won't enjoy it. Not for, well, I don't know. You could be fairly masculine presenting and still enjoy the book, I guess. It's just not written for your viewpoint.
But the thing is that I was gonna guess that that was gonna be mine too, so I could have surprised you. It could have been like a huge reveal. But
yeah, that you also love that book series.
No, I haven't read it, but I would. I would. I can't lie. I haven't read it. I haven't read a fantasy fiction series in a while.
I would say the other fandom that I am. Okay, here it is. The other sort of fandom that I am outlandishly obsessed with is high fantasy smut. Like, that's what A Court of Thorns and Roses is, basically. It's super good. But it has really great plot, so it's not just a romance novel. But like, that's my genre. That's what I read a lot. That's what I know a lot about. That's what I recommend to you.
There you
nice.
go.
I wrote it down. Oh, dear.
There aren't a lot of books in that genre, though, so you'll be really disappointed.
There was that really famous fantasy author who wrote all those like really bad, like,
the vampire Anita something, or I know what you're talking about. She wrote like the Sookie Stackhouse novels. That's not really my thing. Sorry, I'm not into like vampires, werewolves.
Yeah,
I need like a legitimate like Game of Thrones level, like high fantasy world building. Like, it's got to really be intricate. I want to hear a lot about clothes. I want to hear about castle porn, like how castles are built, not like porn in castles.
but also that, if I'm hearing this correctly.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, that too.
Also that, but lesser. World building first, smut second.
It's about storytelling. You gotta slow down and make sure that you thoughts. Make sure you have good lighting. This is an inside Ring of Honor joke, Matt, that Jim Ross always said on his podcast, that Ring of Honor needed to slow down and have better lighting. That was his only.
Really?
But I thought it was appropriate to work it in here.
Does he still say that to this day?
I don't think he does a podcast anymore, but
yeah, he's on with what's his name's son-in-law, Rick son-in-law.
Yeah, whatever.
What? Oh, whoa.
There's a lot of content, and now I'm into like fantasy fiction, like business. Oh, that's a good one though. See, you've introduced our viewers now and forever to an entirely new genre that I bet most of them haven't like really experienced.
Well, I hope that they enjoy it and that they don't think that it's like super weird.
No, dude. Everybody's into something. That's the thing. Like, growing up, you're like, oh, I like playing role-playing games. I like comic books and all this. And they're like, oh, I can't tell anybody I'm scared. Everybody's into something. Right?
I think I skew very high fantasy on pretty much anything, which is why like I really like D&D and like most tabletop gamings, and why I think I adapted so well to Zweihander. Like, yeah. It's just a lot of fun. Like, even in comics, I really like Saga. I don't know if anybody's read Saga.
Oh, Saga's unbelievable.
The art is beautiful. I fell off like a couple of years ago just because like I got to a point where I couldn't keep up with all the trades anymore. But the art is fantastic, and the story's
Fiona. She's from here. She's from where I live. She's from Calgary, I think. Calgary, Edmonton. Fiona something or other. Unreal book. Walter, if you've not read Saga, go out and get the first like 2 or 3 trades and you're going to be hooked.
I'll have to check it out. Honestly, my fantasy fiction like has a lot of gaps in my knowledge. So I've written those down. I will check that out on your recommendation.
More of a sci-fi guy?
I don't know. I guess. I don't know. Honestly, I was going to say the my weird fandom that nobody has really talked about or knows about is that I used to do like extensive like baseball analysis. I actually was published in a couple of books about see, I can go way deep dive into that, and I used to do that. Like I made video games about it with predictive models and things like that. So I went a very different way. This is why I think well into wrestling, is that I'm right on that cusp of like dork and jock. And that's exactly where pro wrestling is.
Before I worked in wrestling, my weird niche obsession was wrestling. So
yeah.
Yep. And now it's what I do.
No, totally. Yeah, that's the obvious one. That is a niche to most people. I would say that at like a cocktail party, but in this company, it just makes sense to.
Right, it's just like a given. So.
Hi guys. Yeah, that's see, I've got a whole new books to check out. How did you get into tabletop role playing? Actually, that was something I was going to ask you.
My brother, he grew up playing D&D, and then when I was old enough, he thought that I would understand it. I'm really close to his son in age. Like my brother's 15 years older than me, and my sister's 11 years older than me. So I think in an attempt to like get to know me more after he was an adult and like moved out and moved away, and because he like moved to Florida and he came back, and I think he just wanted to do stuff with me and my nephew that he liked to do as a kid, and that was tabletop gaming. So he taught us to play D&D, and we started with 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which had like this fantastic monsters manual that I spent hours poring over, and I don't know, it sucked me in. Like I was at a point in my life where my brain was really impressionable, and my biggest hero in the world when I was a kid was Xena, Warrior Princess. So I was already primed to just be this like mega nerd. So yeah, that's what started it all. I actually ended up writing a book in the 4th grade about my very first campaign, because like they used to have these book writing challenges to get people involved or get kids interested in, I don't know, writing or education or something. They're like, here's a blank book. You get to write it and make your own pictures. And I went pretty far in a contest for it. And I was like, thanks guys. I didn't come up with this. I just wrote down the story that my brother already told me, and I got to live, and it was cool.
We are definitely having a dramatic reading of that.
Why don't my mom might still have it. I don't know. I remember drawing a giant scorpion on the very last page, though. So.
And of course,
that's awesome.
The Trapper Keeper Scorpion. I remember like those books for sure. That was the one that really got me too. And I loved the Monstrous Manual. I loved like the different artists doing the different dragons, and there was like 20
the dragons. Were my favorite part.
They were so cool.
The fairy dragon. Yes.
Yeah, totally.
I could probably draw it from memory.
Do you remember the cover, and I'm sure all three of us do, of the player's handbook with the guy's hand who was on backwards and he had the really weird stubby arm?
The axe. He's holding the axe, right? The door's bursting behind them and his arm's like
a brown book, wasn't it? Like
I remember him like riding a horse through a canyon. That's what I remember.
There's one for horse. Okay, yeah.
Yep, and he had like his hand was on backwards. I remember if you looked at the drawing, like it was like his hand was weird wrong.
I was at an age where I definitely was mostly just into the Monsters Manual.
Yeah. Those rules are such a freaking mess. Like as the game designer in me has to like go back and look at that. Nothing was modular. Everything was like piecemealed rules that didn't reflect any other rules. Oh, that game was so messy, but it was so fun.
I didn't we've always just kind of played like house rules. Like these are the standard rules of D&D. This is how you put a character together. These are the rules that we accept when making your character. But then whenever you get to the actual gaming, like we've never used a board, we've never used this, we've never tracked anything like that. It's just kind of like, true, pure role play.
Theater of the mind, just good times.
Yeah. So I've always had an excellent imagination. Not necessarily coming up with my own things, but I can visualize things really well.
I still think that's the best way to play. And Matt runs like a lot of Zweihander games for the channel, and he runs the Zweihander channel, so he knows way more about the rules than I do. I'm embarrassing myself every time I play with you guys because I don't remember some of the rules.
Do we stick to them at all?
It's a very bare bones framework.
Well, Walter's introducing rules as you guys are going, so he's easing you into, because there is a lot up front. There really is with this game, and it's not supposed to like scare anybody away or anything, but it's a lot to take in, especially when you're bringing a whole bunch of people from across the country to come do it once a week and expect you all to read this 400 plus page book. You don't need to read all of it to play it, don't get me wrong, but he's doing a very good job of just slowly easing you guys in and introducing new things. Like last week you introduced was it fate points?
Yeah, or fortune points.
Fortune points, thank you. Yeah, fate points, it's something else. I don't like fate points. I think they don't make the game deadly. I'd say get rid of fate points, but that's just me. Anyways, so I used to, like, when I played growing up, it was all theater of the mind as well. I'd never used maps ever in my life, and then I moved to playing games online with
people did.
And I never knew any other groups growing up either who did it either. And then I talk to people now, they're like, oh, my group always had like grid and paper. And I was like, what? We're just always like, how far away am I? And you'd think about it in your head. But then I moved online, and everybody used maps online. And now I'm like so ingrained with using these battle maps online with tokens, and people are like using the things that are on the map. Like, how big is this rock? Can I hide behind it? Can I do this? Can I do that? I'm like, sure, it's on the map. But
I don't like
it's different.
What to do.
It's a different world. I don't know. Virtually, I think it's nice to have a map, but if you're playing with people in person, it's theater of the mind. You can do it either way, though. Like, there's no right or wrong way to do it at all.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's what's so fun about it. Like, it's really hard because, like, I try to tell Dak about it sometimes because I don't know if you guys ever heard about this, like, drinking quest game. It's basically like a dumbed down version of D&D that they've turned into like a little card game that you play. Like, it's a drinking game. So, like, if you die, you have to, like, chug your drink, and then you can come back to life and finish your game. But, like, you build up your armor, and you build up your weapons, and, like, the story builds along, and it's all based on, like, what cards you draw. And I'm like, this is essentially what it is. Because that's the most physical way that I can explain it to him without being like, well, here's the thing. There's no actual board game. There are no real pieces. You make everything up. You make up your character. You have to make up your backstory, and then you have to do things in character. And because it's something I know that he'd really enjoy and he'd really get behind, but it's such a weird concept to explain to somebody that didn't like grow up doing it.
It's true.
You had friends in middle school is what you're saying? Unlike me.
But you're 100% right. Like, I tell coworkers stuff like, what is this you do? And I always explain it. It's like, take a video game, and a video game's programmed right. You have parameters. You have walls. You can't go past those walls. There's bad guys that are always programmed to do the same thing. Now you're in that video game, and there's no limits. You can do whatever you want, no matter what you want. If you can think of it, you can do it. And that's what we do. We just kind of talk through it and roll dice, and people are like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
And I think the more hardcore people end up making the game, like when the ones that are really sticklers for like really strict rule sets end up making it something that a video game does better and easier. Like, if you want to play like that, just play a video game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I've often thought that it's like, like, so it has to be like, what do you have there?
Yeah, what do we got?
I saw that Andy asked like what board game I like to bring out, and I've never actually played this, but I wanted you to have it.
What is it?
So this is just the Buffy the Vampire Slayer officially licensed board game. I don't know what it's based on. It looks like they actually like made up a sick little game for it.
Is it the one that has the town map on it as the board, or is it the other one? Okay. Yeah. I have totally played that. It's a lot of fun. You can actually play a scenario from almost every season.
But this is my favorite board game of all time. I like Zweihander so much, I think Because so this is the newly updated version, but I grew up playing the VHS version where you could get the different versions of the Gatekeeper.
Yes.
Like change the game. So this was my very favorite game as a kid. This is my very favorite game as an adult. If anybody ever gives me the time to actually like teach them to play board games, this is always what we play.
Yes.
Always.
I used to play Nightmare 1 and 2 all the time.
Yes.
Just
There's
so good.
A whole bunch of expansions like that I just like never got that I wish that I could find. Like the Mummy one is really hard to find. If I don't know, if anybody is ever like, hey, what do we get Quinn for whatever? It's always hard to find versions of Nightmare and Atmosphere.
That's tight. I like it.
That is a fandom fact right there that you just dropped.
Yes, yeah. See, and that's the thing. Like until you like really talk to somebody, you don't know what their weird shit is. But everybody has weird shit.
Oh yeah, that's usually like second or third date before I would mention any of the. So yeah, I designed my. Have you guys seen the the Cones of Dunshire thing from Parks and Rec? I assume. Have you seen that show before? Either of you?
Yes, I have seen it, but I cannot recall.
Okay, so when like her fiance is like laid off work, he like invents like this really complicated like fantasy game that's kind of Settlers of Catan, kind of like Haunting of Hill House, like mixture. He called the Cones of Dunshire, which is sort of a the Rules magazine called it punishingly intricate. I remember that's one of the my wife makes fun of me all the time. I have designed so many of these like stupid games, and I still have a wrestling card game that I designed like 5 years ago that I've not worked on as much as I should. It's pretty good. Still, I got busy.
My brain just doesn't work that way. Like I'm a really great editor. Like I have a very critical eye and I'm a really great critical thinker, and I'm an excellent editor, and I can be a really good producer, but I'm not good at like creating the actual content or idea.
It's tough, man. It's balancing it is really the hardest part. Like the math behind like balancing games to where, because players will exploit a game if they can.
Yes.
Yes, because that's half the fun is figuring out how to win.
Have you ever played Smash Up?
I haven't, but I haven't played it.
So it's a deck building game.
Yeah.
And it's really, really fun because it just kind of takes like different facets of pop culture and turns them into a game. So there's the base game, and then every deck they release is just an expansion that you can continue to add to your game. So you can have like fairies, and you can have bears, and there's like a dragons deck at this point, and there's there's like spies. I can't even. There's a Pretty Ponies one.
They've come up with everything. Like there's an expansion for everything one with Smash Up.
It's super fun, and you just combine them together and then try to beat each other. But my whole goal for the game is exploiting as many of the rules as I can, because it's about like, well, this card says this, so technically you could interpret it this way. So this means I get to play 6 more cards, so suck it.
Yeah. So you're one of those competitive gamers.
No, not at all. What would give you that idea?
Have you guys seen the? I think it was a thing where D&D players like review a cookbook where they try to find rules exploits.
No.
This recipe says oregano to taste. I can technically use unlimited oregano. It's extremely funny.
The dumbest shit I've ever heard.
But you're laughing. It's
true though.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm good. Oh.
Infinity. That's what we're gonna name the next journey show.
Unlimited oregano. But can you imagine being like this big traditional charismatic jock like Dak, and then like starting to date this blue-haired girl, and then over time you slowly learn that she's just like the biggest nerd in the world, and she doesn't actually have any real life interests.
I was bamboozled.
Just he says.
We're hearing him.
That's hysterical. Well, hey, Quinn, I knew you wanted to try to head out around 6:30. It's actually 6:37. We got stuck on oregano and cheating at deck building games there for a minute. So I know you have an exciting project you're going to work on.
Yes, tomorrow I have to write my script. Tomorrow we're filming ROH week by week in studio for the very first time. The studio was built like months and months and months ago, guys. So I'm excited to be able to actually shoot in it and not in my living room anymore because I'm not good at it.
You have been with companies that have built new facilities and then immediately abandoned those facilities more than once.
More than once! Oh my gosh! That's a deep cut.
Yeah, that's just for the Dak gets it if he's still listening.
If you know, you know.
Yep.
Okay. Well, maybe
this was so much fun.
It was. I would totally do this again. If this is just what podcasting is, then like sign me up.
Basically,
this is all it is.
Yep. Well, we're gonna do the Buffy podcast. I've got dibs at least.
I'll do it. I will absolutely do a Buffy podcast. I swear, Walter. I swear.
Dude, I think people could listen to that. I think they would be really interested.
I think there's this podcast called Slayerfest 98 that I think I would really like to.
Why 98?
Because that's the name of the episode. It was actually
okay.
Homecoming and Buffy and Cordelia. Like this group of hired assassins think that they're getting Buffy and Faith, and that they're going to try to kill the two Slayers, and instead it's actually Buffy and Cordelia. And then Cordelia saves the day because Cordelia is actually like really cool.
Cordelia is really cool.
She is.
All right.
Thank you for having me on.
This was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
And I'll be back anytime. Maybe next week we'll play a game.
Yes, we're gonna try to set up. It'll be exciting. We'll get everybody back and we'll start playing the games. Yeah.
I hope my character's still alive.
That you are. You went along with them for the other ride. They were gonna leave you. I'm not gonna tell you. They were gonna try to leave you behind at the house. They left the house.
It is my house, I guess.
Yeah, but you needed to leave. It's not good there right now. Things aren't great there. Things are going pretty poorly.
Oh no, I'm excited.
It'll still be there. It'll be fine. Nothing bad could possibly happen. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.